everyone. I have a lot of people telling me that they can't meditate because they can't shut off the thoughts in the mind. Um, for one, that's impossible because our brain is working to keep us alive every minute of every day. So, of course, you're going to have thoughts that are coming into your brain. So, it's impossible to eradicate every single thought. Well, maybe not impossible for some Buddhist monks, but for the vast majority of us, it is impossible to do that. So don't beat yourself up, and that's not a reason that you can't meditate. I'm going to show you today a couple of tips on how to get over that fear of I'm not going to be able to stop thinking, because A, it's fine, and B, there's some ways that we can work around it. So first and foremost, when you start to meditate, get yourself nice and comfortable, because one thing that is going to trigger your thoughts is I'm really uncomfortable. So we need to get really comfortable in our bodies. I prefer a cross-legged seat, but any seated position that you're comfortable in is absolutely fine to meditate. There's not one right way to do it. Ideally, you want your knees at the same level as your hips, so like in line with each other, so it's not kind of sloping down or it's not sticking up. And you want to be sat on like a firm cushion, like a yoga block or something like that, on the edge of it, so that you are kind of tilted forward. So it's just as if your sitting bones are just on the edge of the yoga block or the cushion. And if when you sat like this, your knees are kind of up or down, just get some extra padding. Get some cushions under your knees so that you're nice and comfortable and that your spine is supported and nice and straight. So that's first thing. Second thing, just make sure you're wearing comfortable clothing. I know it sounds so basic, but don't meditate in something that you feel that is like pinching or that is tight in some areas or that is quite like a rough material or whatever, because then that's going to trigger your thinking mind into, oh, I can feel this, I can feel that. So nice and comfortable. And when you start meditating, you need to give some space to your spine. So tuck your tailbone under if you can, and that's going to bring your core backwards, and then that's going to help your spine to support your core so you're not kind of leaning forward like this. And then roll your shoulders back and down away from the ears, because we experience so much tension in our shoulders during the day, especially if we're sat for a long amount of time, either driving or in an office chair or whatever, and we can sort of hunch our shoulders and get quite a bit of tension in there. So roll those back and down, and then make sure your neck's nice and loose and that your chin is tucked in slightly. Now, this position may feel slightly uncomfortable to start with because we're so used to sitting in a certain position that this can feel unnatural. This is the best way to get the most space into your body so that you're not feeling hunched up and tight and tense. However, if this is uncomfortable, shift your body to whatever comfortable position that you need to be in, just to release that tension, and then come back to this when you feel comfortable. And the more that you get into this position, the more comfortable and the more natural it'll start to feel. And it takes time, so be kind to yourselves. So that's how to get comfortable and how to stop thinking I'm uncomfortable when you're meditating. And then the next thing is, you're going to get thoughts coming in about what am I going to have for dinner, or what am I going to do about that task that I need to do, what's on my to-do list. And that's natural because the mind tends to think in the future and tends to think about the things that are coming and the things that it needs to do. So it's about reminding yourself we're having a moment to ourselves, we're here, and the best way to drop out the mind is to drop into the body. So we're going to take you through a quick meditation now, just to drop into the body, and just see how that feels. So if it feels comfortable, just close your eyes very gently and bring your focus to the breath. We're not changing it in any way, we're not judging it, just noticing that breath coming slowly and coolly in through the nose and warm back out through the nose, just noticing. And if your mind does start to wander, just imagine that it's clouds floating across the sky. and allow them to float by, or fish swimming by in an aquarium. Because if you try to stop the flow of your thoughts, the first thing that you're going to do is feel shame or annoyance that you're not doing it right somehow. And that's not accepting who you are or how things are, and there's a real resistance there. So resistance is not going to help you meditate or be present, because you're resisting what is. So when you resist the flow of your thoughts, it's almost like trying to push a river or trying to stop a river from flowing, and that's impossible. The best thing to do is to sit by the river and watch it flow past and just notice it, because it's going to flow anyway. So if those thoughts come by, just imagine you sat watching a river flow by, and just allow them to pass and come back to the breath. Our breath is so wonderful as a kind of focus point or an anchor point for us, because breath can be both voluntary and involuntary. So it's really the meeting point of us being able to exert some power and some action in our lives and take a step back and rest and allow things to be. It's really sitting between both of those states of being, and it really connects us to what is and the trueness of life, I suppose. So being able to watch the breath is a really calming thing to do, because you're doing it all the time. And if you think about it, breathing is the first thing and the last thing you will ever do in this lifetime. It's your spirit. So when you watch the breath, there's really a calmness and a solemnity that comes with that. Drops us out of the thinking mind. So apart from coming back to the breath, another thing to help take you out of the thinking mind during meditation is again to drop into the body. So when you first sit down into meditation and you've closed your eyes, you've got into a nice comfortable position and you've taken notice of the breath, next scan the body for any areas of tension. Because if we're feeling tense, then our mind's going to come back to that. So scanning the body for any areas of tension. And when we come across any, we're just breathing into that and allowing it to release down into the ground. Almost as if it's melting and becoming soft and fluffy like marshmallow. At the moment, I can feel a little bit of tension in my sort of diaphragm area. So I'm breathing into that, into the belly. And then on the out breath, just breathing that out, just releasing it, allowing it to fall down to the ground. And if any thoughts come up into the mind, we just allow them to pass, like the flow of the river. And come back to scanning the body, the head, the shoulders, the arms, the hands, the chest, the abdomen, the back, the hips, the legs, the feet, and releasing any tension away. And you may be thinking, what's next? What are we moving on to next? And that's a really common thing to be thinking in meditation is, I'm bored. What's coming next? And when I first started meditating when I was probably about 14, 15, that was a real barrier for me and a real obstacle for me, was getting past this, what's the point in this? But I think as you get older, maybe, I don't know, or even as a teenager and you don't realise it's what you need, these areas, or these spaces of quiet, these times of just quiet and peace are really, really beneficial for us. Because when we can come back to a space of peace and noticing the mind and allowing the mind without judgment, when we practice this just for 5-10 minutes a day, it's so much easier to do that in our daily lives. It just becomes a habit, it becomes a second sense or muscle memory. And the habit of getting into your body and feeling for areas of tension can also really help in daily life as well. We're in situations or conversations or interactions where we can feel our body tensing. It indicates to us what is a good energy to be around, what's a bad energy to be around, and what is good for us and what's bad for us. Allows us to take a little bit more power over our lives. So that was a little bit of a tangent and a little bit of a sort of going on a bit, but I hope you found that useful. So it's okay to be thinking when you meditate. It's completely natural. It's all about rising above that and then into the body, into the breath, making sure nice and comfortable and taking it easy on yourself. So thanks very much.